Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to be looking at multiplying by a two-digit number. This is something that can be a little bit tricky if you aren't paying close attention. So I want you to pay really close attention to what we're doing so that you understand really well how to do this. So go ahead and make sure that you're folding your paper into 8 squares. So we have 3 hamburgers. I am going to not make my lines today because I have a feeling that we're going to be going over our lines a little bit. So I'm only going to make my line that goes halfway and my line that goes halfway. So that if I have to use more spaces to show my work, I can. So I'm going to make sure that I write my name in the corner. And I am going to write lesson 3.2. And we're going to work on page 101 to 103. Okay? All right. So a couple of things we're going to be working on in this lesson, and that is we're going to be working on using estimation and to multiply, and we're also going to be working on breaking apart numbers by place value and adding partial products. So if we look at the first problem on in our math book, if we look at the first problem on this page, it says Kevin packs 4 packs of apples. Each bag contains 10 apples. How many apples does Kevin pack altogether? 4 times 10 equals. So if he has 4 times 10, this model is showing that he has 4 chips in the tens place. 4 times 10 is 4 times 110 equals 4 tens, and that's going to equal 40 apples altogether, right? That makes sense to everybody. Now let's look at Raphael. Raphael buys 3 packages of crayons. Each package contains 20 crayons. How many crayons does Raphael buy? So he has 3 packages, right? So there's 3. This picture is showing 3 rows, 3 packages, and each package has 20. That's why there's 2 chips in each of the rows. So if we take 3 times 20, we're going to end up with 3 times 2 tens, right? These are showing 2 tens. 3 times 2 tens equals 6 tens, and that's going to equal 60. So Raphael buys 60 crayons. Now we're going to take it up a notch. We have some problems here on the page 1 through 5 that are going to have some missing numbers, okay? So I'm going to be tipping my paper to the side so that we can fill in all of the green boxes, okay? So let's look at number 1. I'm going to tip it over to the side this way. So I have 14 times 10. I'm also going to zoom in a little smidgy. So if I have 14 times 10, that equals blank times, or green box times green box 10. Green box times green box 10. That equals green box tens, and that equals green box. So if I have 14 times 10, I'm saying that there's going to be 14 times 110, right? And that is going to equal how many tens? Well, it's going to equal 14 tens, right? And if I have 14 tens, I have 140 ones, right? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, let's look at number 2. If it doesn't make sense yet, it will shortly. So now if I have 7 times 30, that equals green box times green box tens, and that equals green box tens, and that equals green box. So if I have 7 times 3 tens, right? So I'm saying that this is 30 is representative of 3 tens, right? Just like this 10 was representative of 1 10. I'm going to multiply 7 times 3 tens, and that's going to give me 21 tens. And that gives me 210, right? Making sense so far? Okay, let's try another one. Here's number 3. So on number 3, I have 9 times 40. And then I have 9 times green box tens. So I'm going to say 9 times green box tens. And I'm going to say that that equals green box tens, and that equals green box. So if I have 9 times how many tens? Well, that's 4 tens, right? And 9 times 4 is going to be 36 tens. And if I have 36 tens, I have 360 ones, right? Okay, let's zip over to the next one. Number 4. Number 4 is trickier. So this time we have 58 times 60. And that equals green box times green box tens. And that equals green box tens. And that equals green box. So let's look at this for a second. So if I have this 60 right here is going to be 6 tens, right? And then I have 58 times 6 tens. So if I have 58 times 6, I'm going to multiply that out over here. You might need to do that too. So that's going to look like this. And this is going to look like this. So I end up with 348 tens. Now, if I'm going to make those into ones, I have to put a 0 on the end, right? So it's going to be 3,480 ones. Make sense? Clear as mud? All right, let's look at number 5. This time we have 47 times 80. And again, we have the same pattern, right? We have green box times green box tens. And that equals green box tens. And that equals a green box with some ones in it. Okay? So let's look really carefully. If I have this, I have 47. And then I have how many tens? If I have 80, that means I have 8 tens. And if I multiply these together, two, 32 plus 5 is 37. That means I have 376 tens. And that means that if it's tens and I want to look at ones, it's going to be 3,760 ones, right? Okay, let's look at the next page. Okay, this time we're going to find the missing number. Are you ready? Let's look at number 6. Okay, so number 6 says find the missing numbers. And we have 43 times 50 equals 43 times green box times 5, and that equals green box times 5, and that equals green box. So if we're looking at this, what we're really saying is that we're starting out with 43 times 50. Oop, hang on just a quick second. Sorry, it felt like the heater came on. It was melting me. So if we have 43, and we're looking at 43 times 50, that's the same as we're breaking this into chunks. Let's break this 50 into chunks. We're going to call this 10 times 5. Okay, because really that's what that is. Let me break it out, pull it out a little bit for you. This is really 43, and 50 is really 10 times 5, right? So I can go ahead and I can say, 43 times 10, well, 43 times 10 is 430 times 5. And if I do 430 times 5, I get 15, 16, regroup, and I get 2,100. Sorry, I didn't regroup here. Should be 50. I just noticed that. So I get 2,150, right? So what we've done here is we've broken this 50 into two chunks. We're calling it 10 times 5, right? And you can break numbers into chunks as long as you add the chunks back together, right? In this case, we're not adding the chunks. We multiplied it over here to this 43 and made it 430, right? Okay, let's look at the next one. That was a little bit tricky. Now they're going to take it up a notch. Dun, dun, dun. Here's number 7. This time we have 216 times 30. And that equals 216 times green box times 10. And that equals green box times 10. And that equals green box. Okay? So here we go. What do you think is going to go in the first box? If this is 216, and that's right down here, and we're trying to show 30, and we have a 10 here, we're breaking this into two chunks. 30 is the same as what times 10? 3 times 10, right? Now, if we can go ahead and we can take 216 and multiply it by 3. And I get 648 times 10, which is going to be 6,480, right? So what we're really doing is we're just taking this number and we're breaking it into two pieces, and we're multiplying one piece times the larger number, and we're leaving this nice 10 because it's really easy to multiply by 10, isn't it? Super easy. You just put a 0 on the end. So we're saving this 10 so that we can just pop a 0 on the end. Let's look at number 8. Let's see if they make it harder. Dun, dun, dun. Let's check it out. Oh, 37 times 200, jinkies, equals 37 times green box times 100 equals green box times 100 equals green box. Make sure I got all the green boxes right. So now if we have 37 right here, this is the same. This and this, we're breaking this 200. We're going to say 200 is the same thing as what times 100? 2, right? Now we're going to take 37 times 2, which looks like this. 74. And now we have to take 74 times 100. That's pretty easy because we know we're just going to end up with 2 zeros on the end. It's going to be 7,400, right? When we do that, when we add them to, or when we multiply them together. So let's try number 9. So number 9 is 75 times 800, and that equals 75 times green box times 8, and that equals green box times 8, and that equals green box. Okay. So here's my 75. 75 times 800, 75 times something times 8. What do you think is going to go in that mystery box there? My thought is it's probably going to be 100, right? Because 100 times 8 equals 800. Now we're going to take 75 and multiply it by 100. That's easy. It's 75 with 2 zeros on the end. Now we're going to multiply that by 8 to get our answer. So look, we just did a really big multiplication problem. 75 times 800. You've probably never multiplied by double digits before, and it wasn't that tricky. I mean, it was a little tricky. And I ended up getting 60,000 as my answer. Okay. Now what they're doing in the math book is they're giving us some problems that look like these. And they're saying they look like these, but without all the green boxes. So they're going to ask us ask us to figure out ways of breaking up the numbers. Okay. So let's look at number 10. Oops. I set my book down and lost you. So let's look at number 10. So on number 10, if I take 32 times 10, I can basically solve this problem pretty easily by taking, this is already a 10, there's no other digit there. So I can say that this is the same thing as 32 times 10, which is going to be 320. The 0 comes down here, and I end up with 320, right? That one was pretty easy. It was different from these because we're already multiplying by 10 on these. Now they're going to give us one that's a little bit harder, number 11. This time they're saying 93 times 30. This time we can break it up. We can use the box system to break it up. So if we say that this is the same as 93 times green box times 10 equals green box times 10 equals green box. So I'm just setting it up exactly like number 7. We're going to break this into 2 chunks. This is going to be 93 times 3 times 10. Then I'm going to take 93 times 3, which is 279. I'm going to multiply that by 10, and that's going to give me, the 0 comes right over here on the end, right? So that gives me 2,790, right? Okay, let's look at the next one. This one's probably going to be tricky. Oh, it is. We got this. We got this, people. Dun, dun, dun. Ah! Well, this is not going to be so bad. Let's say that this is the same thing as 41 times a green box times 100. So 500 is the same thing as 5 times 100, right? Then that's going to give us green box times 100, and that's going to give us a green box, right? So if we take 41 times 5, I get 205. And if I'm multiplying that by 100, ay carambas, that means it's going to be 205 with 2 zeros on the end. Okie smokies. So really what we're doing is we're just breaking numbers into chunks based on place value. And then we're multiplying the chunks because it's easier to multiply by little chunks than to multiply big, huge numbers together, right? So if we're going to look at an area model, multiplying with an area model, and this is kind of preparing you for multiplying with an area model. One of the things that's really tricky is explaining to parents area models, because when your parents were young, area models weren't used. Just like when I was young, area models weren't used. So tomorrow we're going to be looking at models that look like this, where we're breaking apart larger numbers. Before we broke apart really easy small numbers. Now we're going to be breaking apart larger numbers to multiply in an area model. And sometimes that's a little bit difficult for parents to understand. If your parents are helping you with your math work, which sometimes they do, parents are not used to doing this because this is more of a new way of looking at multiplication with multiple digits. So, but you'll get used to using it, and it's actually like a really fun way of multiplying. In fact, it seems like to me like it helps kids understand it better than they understand the regular algorithm. All right, so I hope you enjoyed multiplying today, and if you don't know your times tables, This is a real good chance for me to give you a times table pep talk. Please learn your times tables, work on them. We're going to start passing them off on Fridays. If you come to the help desk, I will pass off times tables with you. Probably not this Friday because this Friday, this Friday. I'm recording this a week early. So, yeah, this Friday, if you want to pass off times tables, I can do that for you. And you can get your card signed off. I probably already showed you. Every student has a card that looks like this that has all your times tables on it. And once you pass them off, I'm going to initial it. And you have to pass off all the way to 12 this year. So if you on Friday, if you come to the help desk and you want to pass off, let's say you want to pass off your 5s because they're easy. I'm going to ask you all your 5s not in order, out of order, and if you pass them off and you get all the answers correct, I will sign off on your card. Your goal this year is to have all this signed. You go all the way to the 12s, and you can do it. And if you do it, it's going to really help you become a strong math student. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you enjoyed multiplying, and I will see you later.